Hello, hello. Good morning. Good. Yeah, that's good. They keep up the energy, right? Energy tech company, so we need that energy from all of you today. Thanks for joining our panel. We have great panelists sharing this session this morning. That's our moment to discuss about industrial renaissance in the U.S. It's a pretty exciting moment for the country, but it's not coming without challenges, right? And I'm sure we are going to have a great debate today about it. And some is what we have heard this morning about the pace of technology being adopted, about the challenges that we need to face in regards to energy availability. We all, at the end of the day, consume energy, and we compete with AI factories as well in the industrial sector. We have challenges regarding the use of natural resources. And I think one of the most relevant points about talent, how we attract talent to the manufacturing space. So at the end of the day, we can remain competitive as a country in the global environment, right? Because that industry is not competing just internally, but is also competing externally with different manufacturers around the globe. Now, a point for us just on the talent, according to US Census, by 2030, 2 million jobs in manufacturing will be unfulfilled. We did our own research, talking with plant managers, and we discovered that for 78% of them, hiring skilled people is a major challenge. At the same time, we see adoption of technology in many areas. And in manufacturing, actually, we are lagging behind. Recent study from McKinsey saying that manufacturing is the place that is lagging all the other parts in an organization to adopt these technologies. And there's a link between those two. So we at Schneider, we believe that software-defined automation using open standards will allow us to reconcile all these variables, allowing us to be more competitive, as well as attract the new generation of talents to power the industrial sector in the U.S. And I think that's aligned with a national plan in the U.S. for advanced manufacturing that's trying to invest more in R&D, that's trying to invest in open standards and create an environment that we can attract people. So my name is André Marino. I lead the industrial automation business in North America for Schneider Electric. And I have great colleagues and set of panelists today. They are coming from different parts of this ecosystem, representing machine manufacturers, packaging industry, electric and electronic association, and manufacturers as well. My colleague from startup that will share, not a startup anymore, I would say. He will share his journey, and Ian representing the end users in the energy space. And I will start, and I will let them introduce themselves with a question. Maybe we can start with you, Deborah. From NEMA perspective, from your perspective, what's unique in this moment in industrial sector in the U.S. and how you see companies adapting their strategy and what they are doing to navigate this environment?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Deborah Phillips. I run NEMA, the National Electrical Manufacturers Association. We're based in Washington. We're a trade association that represents the broad electrical industry. Schneider is a strong NEMA member. Amar Paul, who you heard from this morning, is on our board. But we represent all facets of electrical technologies, from lighting to motors to transformers to wiring cable. So we're right in the middle of all of these dynamics. I spent time in the oil and gas industry prior to electrical. I joined NEMA 4 years ago, and wow, what a ride it's been. This industry is changing so rapidly. It's growing. It's amazing. We put out a study last year that we expect electricity demand to grow by 50% out to 2050, which is an amazing time. This industry has not seen this before. And what's happening is electrical manufacturers, because of that demand, but also because of current supply chain constraints and trade and tariff policy, we're investing here in the United States, $185 billion invested in electrical manufacturing domestically since 2018. In fact, the electrical industry comprises half of the investments in U.S. manufacturing today. That's up from 5% a decade ago. So we're fully half of all of the manufacturing investments. So that's great. That's amazing growth. But it comes with workforce. It comes with workforce challenges. It comes with supply chain challenges. And so, we've been doing quite a lot working with our companies to attract young people into the industry, to redeploy veterans that are coming out of the armed services. So programs, legislation around those issues. The other thing that we've been doing to help in the supply chain space, because there's so much focus now on domestic manufacturing, getting materials that are made here in the United States, we launched a program called Make It American that certifies products that meet domestic content requirements and facilities that can evaluate their supply chains to help sort of meet that domestic content demand. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of our vantage point in this moment.
Thank you, Deborah. And we are happy to contribute having our drives, right?
Well,
Fairfield, Ohio.
yes.
So I can't reinforce that enough. Ian, to you, you're doing a very nice project. I will let you to talk about how do you see affect your planning and strategy in this context?
Yeah, thanks, Andre. So Ian Dunderdale, I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Element Resources. We're a green hydrogen project company. We're build, own, operate green hydrogen projects in Southern California. Our first project is located in Lancaster, California. It's about 100 miles north of Los Angeles, and it's off-grid. It's an off-grid green hydrogen project. So we have our own dedicated solar. It's about 1 million panels, 700 megawatts, and that powers 400 megawatts of electrolyzer. And then we liquefy all the hydrogen and we'll sell it in a liquid form. And so we're in an advanced stage of engineering. We spent the last year working with Schneider Electric on load flow analysis and some creative approaches to reactive power compensation that we don't have to buy StatCom. That was cool. So I think, the thing that I would emphasize for us is we see a lot of opportunity and growing supply base in the US for off-grid projects and for these large microgrids, because we're running a lot of power through our microgrid, and we are power to X. We're power to liquid hydrogen, and so to run that project 24 hours a day and make 22 million kilograms of hydrogen a year, we also have about 350 megawatt hours of battery storage, and managing that day solar, night battery operation has been a large part of what we've been working with the Schneider team over the last year to define that, and then the control systems that are going to operate it. And we'll come on a little bit to the people side of that in a moment, but I just leave you with that sort of think around that amount of power, and that's all you have to play with.
Thank you, Ian. Exciting. So, you're a technology provider like Schneider. You see many of our industrial customers going through that journey at Augury, and you have contact with many of them. How do you see your customers, adopting technology in that environment?
So hi everyone. Sar, co-founder of Augury, no longer a startup. We started 14 years ago, so we're more in the awkward teenage years, if you want. Yeah, so what we do is we work with the largest manufacturers in the world to help them bring AI to the production lines, to make them more reliable, more productive, more sustainable. And it gives us a front row seat, right? Because we talk to a lot of executives of these global companies. And I think the common theme is that they understand that the tools that they used to have in the toolbox are no longer available. Whatever playbook worked in the 90s is no longer there. So they can't just offshore to China, right? Due to geopolitical issues, due to the supply chain strategies following COVID, right? I mean, going from globalization to more local for local, they have to rethink that. They can't just throw bodies at the problem because they can't hire fast enough. You mentioned 2 million jobs that are open. There is this thing they call the silver tsunami, right? All the experts are nearing retiring age. In 5 years, all the knowledge of manufacturing will be gone. How do you cope with that, right? And then lastly, sustainability, which both through regulation or consumer demand requires them to think different and work differently, right? And even if you want to bring manufacturing back to the US, which is easy to say, right, it's got to take 3 to 4 years to build a factory. The talent landscape will look drastically different in 4 years than it used to, 10, even today, but even 10 years ago. So in the meantime, what do you do with the rest of your existing factories? You have billions invested in CapEx. How do you optimize that? Right, so just one example, we have a large customer with 60 factories in North America, and we were able to increase their productivity by 4 to 5%, which equals 2 factories that they don't need to rebuild. They don't need to build. Just by working smarter, they can capture that productivity gain.
Interesting. Glenn, you also exposed to one of vital sectors, which is packaging, right? And across life science, food and bev, and so on. And I guess you have a interesting point from the association. How do you see that?
Yeah, I'm Glenn Long. I'm the Senior Vice President of PMI. We represent packaging and processing equipment manufacturers in North America. We also have component supplier members that supply the pieces and parts that go into the build of those machines, of which Schneider is one. Our members are facing a step change in the manufacturing space. The majority of our 1,250 members are what we would consider smaller companies, and they sell their equipment to very, very large users. So there's a big dichotomy between the supplier and the user of the equipment, and there's all different ways that technology is changing as they try to adapt to fill that space. Workforce is always within the top 3 issues that our members are facing. They can't find people to hire, and the people that they have working are not trained to do the jobs that they need to be doing today. So it's a constant challenge. Automation and technology is removing some of the more manual tasks that our members see, but those jobs then that are required to support that technology are very, very different. So if you can think about things like robotics being placed into manufacturing facilities, it removes some of that manual labor, but then somebody's got to program the robot and maintain the robot. So it's kind of a little bit like squeezing a balloon. We're fixing one problem and creating another. So it's a very big issue for our manufacturers, and it's something that everybody up and down the supply chain in the universe where we are is trying to help address.
Thank you. You touched on an important point, because there's the probably not very productive discussion of technology enemy of people in the shop floor instead of attracting people to the shop floor. I'm sure we can discuss that deeper. Another interesting point that I keep in my head, I heard from a professor at MIT, and he said, in 7 years in the US, we'll have more people that are 65 years older than 18 years younger. Right? So to your point, the amount of knowledge that's going to retire, that's vital to understand the processes and how we manufacture things, it's enormous. So technology will definitely need to play a role here, because it's hard to attract talents. Then you have people retiring. How you even get to train them, right? So I believe technology can help us. And we all talk about AI, and we discuss about how it's difficult or not to adopt in manufacturing. I want to start with Ian, maybe because I know that you're a big fan of using new technologies to make your process more efficient. Tell us a bit about what you have been doing in Element Resources.
Yeah, so we're fortunate, and we have a new plant, so we can be digital heavy from day one. And so we've taken very much the approach of, first of all, we can't go and hire people that have been running a green hydrogen plant off solar. They don't exist. The plants don't exist. So we're going to have to develop these people, and that gives us a great opportunity to build, for want of a better word, a simulator, a digital twin, as we're building the plant. And so that's our plan, is that as we start to construct the plant, we'll be building this and developing our people and building the AI in from day one, so that we can use that for particularly important factors for us are weather. We're solely reliant on the sun, so being able to forecast the weather, know what it's going to do, know when we're going to get sunshine and when we're not, and then how to turn up and turn down the plant, first of all from a sort of advisory basis, and increasingly from a notification basis. So I think that's an area where we see the ability to get all of that information and make decisions in a much shorter cycle, and looking at a large array of data and looking at it in that time domain is going to be helpful. And I think the other area that we've really focused on is hiring 20-year-olds. We found that hiring a lot of people out of college or with a few years experience and bringing them in and developing them has been a big benefit for us. And in my career, I've had a lot of success, in particular, of hiring female engineers. It's a sort of a pool of people that perhaps don't get the profile or don't see the opportunity in engineering or engineering as a career. And so that's another area that we started to sort of really focus on.
Interesting. Sars, I know you worked together with Schneider, probably not in a new plant, in a greenfield, but in one of our oldest plants. I would like you to tell the story from your angle as a supplier to that plant and how you see that magic happen, if we can call it magic or real technology at the shop floor.
Yeah, so before we go there, I remember I had a conversation with the chief digital officer of one of the large breweries, one of the large beer companies. And he told me, digital transformation is not digital. It's 10% about the data, the sensors, 20% about the AI or the algorithms, and 70% about people. And in fact, you should change my title from CDO to Chief Cultural Transformation Officer, because that's my main job.
Good point.
And I think some companies do a good job of instilling that culture of change and looking for that next opportunity. And Schneider is doing a phenomenal job through your lighthouse facilities, and one of them in Lexington that we're working with. It's a really real pleasure, because we're not pushing uphill; they're actually asking for more, right? And I think a core piece of our philosophy as a company is we're not going to transform the whole industry alone. It's how do we connect to Aviva and what you're doing? How do we connect to other vendors around us? And Lexington is in. Today we're thinking we're in 5 of these lighthouse factories in Schneider are a really good kind of opportunity to do that. Specifically from the people side, we've had technicians come in and say, before Augury, I used to climb ladders and climb on machines and do the routes, carry heavy kind of spare parts, etc. Now I just come in and open the computer, right? So you could imagine we went from doing the dull, dirty, dangerous jobs to sitting in front of the computer and then help the AI guides you where you need to focus, right? So more productive, but also less dangerous. More safety is a big concern, right? And the maintenance team, I don't think this is in Schneider, but we have another customer that the maintenance team was cut down by 1/3, not because of financial reasons, they just couldn't find talent. And the only way for them to keep up with the pace is by working smarter. This is one way of doing it.
Yeah. Just some insights on that plant. We operate almost 200 factories around the globe. So we have a lot of experience in manufacturing. We definitely, a technology company, but we have a lot of sites. And we are very proud of the lighthouse factories that we have. This particular plant in Kentucky, as an interesting point, we have a user, an operator that was there for more than 40 years. This plant is operating for 60 years, right? And he was, if you go and talk to him, he would say, I was not even having an iPad. I was like, not my thing. Now, he's operating one of the most modern factories in the world. That's change management, right? It's not about displacing people, but putting them at the better jobs in analyzing information instead of doing repetitive tests. So it's a real example that you can all, you're invited to go there and see either digitally or in person. One of these lighthouse factories is really amazing. Deborah, discussing with you, I would say, you correct me if I'm wrong, but small and mid-sized industries are making up 80% of the U.S. manufacturing landscape. How they can get access to technology, because, most of the audiences here is representing big companies, right? But then how these 80% are adopting it, because if they don't, they will fall behind.
Yeah. Right? I've been to that Lexington
you did?
facility, yes, and saw exactly what you're talking about in action. Yeah, in fact, NEMA members, 2/3 of our members are small and medium-sized manufacturers, and the level of implementation around these digital advanced manufacturing technologies is very low, less than 20%. But the promise is big, right? Mm-hmm. So it's all about accessibility. It's about incentivizing. It's about open architecture. So it feels more plug and play and accessible to them. And that's one of the roles of a trade association, I think, is to push on that incentivizing through policy mechanism for bringing this technology to small and medium-sized manufacturers. And in fact, right now, the federal government is having a think about their approach for advanced manufacturing. They're thinking about a national program. And I think it's partially driven because this administration wants to bring manufacturing back to the United States, but there's also a workforce shortage, right? So the way you do this is by building plants from the ground up with this advanced manufacturing in place. So if we can get incentives, whether those are tax incentives, whether those are just sort of education programs in place to incentivize these small and medium-sized companies to bring this technology and adopt it in and for sure from the ground up when new facilities are being built, I think policy is a key part of that equation.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely need not only the private sector, right, but the public sector to incentivize that. Otherwise, would be super difficult to reach out to the small and mid-sized manufacturers. Like they don't have access like the big ones would have, and neither human capital or financial capital just to go out there and try. Glenn, how that affects the machine sector, the machine builder sector?
Well, Deborah's exactly right. Our small to medium-sized companies just don't have the wherewithal to get involved in some of these technologies. So it takes the community, whether it's the government, whether it's our much larger suppliers that help with the education and help drive that technology into the smaller manufacturers. But it's working together. The associations play a role there, and no one group can do it alone. It's very, very evident in the work that we get into that in order for us to elevate the level of these small to medium-sized manufacturers, we need help. Mm-hmm. It comes from all these different areas within our supply chain and within our universe. And once the technology is exposed, obviously the benefits are there. So everyone's trying to do their part to raise the level. And we see it more now than we ever have, especially with the pace of change.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Deborah, back to you on the sentences that Glenn just said, that no one can do it alone. So we definitely need NEMA playing a role here. What are you doing there as an association to make sure that we develop the new set of talents and pool of talents?
I mean, it's not. There's not one answer, right? It's many answers. So it's developing those talent channels and attracting young people and developing emerging leaders, and it's also attracting skilled labor. We're losing electricians at a rate of about 3,000 electricians per year. 10,000 are retiring, only 7,000 are coming in. That's changing. In the last couple of years, you've seen more young people going into skilled trades. They're good jobs, high paying. So that's changing, which I think is really positive. And some of that is a role of a trade association to tell the story. Why, this is a rewarding career path. And, not only because you can raise a family and earn a good living, but because you're doing good in the world. So I think pushing on that workforce issue is a role of a trade association. The other, if you know of NEMA, you probably know of NEMA standards. We're a standards developing organization. We have a library of about 1,000 standards. But leaning into advanced manufacturing standards, pushing on that so that we can scale and grow and embed those standards into code so that we can really, kind of bring it to life as another role of the trade association. And then, the third is, of course, in the policy area, really calling this administration's attention to the fact that we don't have enough workers, that we need incentives to install advanced manufacturing. I think there's a role for us to push on those policy measures as well.
Thank you. Ian, I'm looking to you as the end user here in our panel. What is your expectation, either from the public sector, but also from the associations, Glenn, Deborah, and I will come to you, Sar, very soon.
Yeah, so I think that Deborah made a really good point there. You know, we also see apprenticeship programs as a vital part of the labour that's going to be deployed on our project, and we've had tremendous support from the unions coming to all of our public hearings. In fact, one of them said virtually what Deborah just said, which is, I see jobs for my children here that are craft, they're highly skilled, they're interesting, I'm going to learn a lot, and so it's very rewarding. So prevailing wage and apprenticeship program as the IRA obviously is a big part of that. In California, the unions are all behind that, so they're extremely supportive, and they have big apprenticeship programs that back that up. And so we see with the electrical workers in particular, you know, a lot of support. I mean, we'll have about 1,000 workers on site when we build out the plant, but we'll only probably need a dozen or 15 people to actually run it. And so it's this sort of a huge difference, but it's because we're going to deploy a lot of this technology. And so whilst we don't have lots of people on site, we're relying on people that are back in like SaaS company to do that. In fact, reliability analysis and the ability to build these block models on reliability analysis. So whilst you can build sort of models to look at how you size your system, which is what we've done with you, what we would do with someone like Augury would be to look at, okay, now we've got all these components, how reliable are they and how long will they last, and what's going to be then our maintenance schedule with that sort of predictive modeling going forward. So it's really interesting, the layers of modeling from sizing to reliability that you get. So the jobs are here, they're perhaps not in the field to start with, they're in different areas that go to the field.
Yeah. Well, we have a visibility issue too. I mean, one of the things that we try to do is to attract young people, let them know the industry exists. I mean, everybody wants to work on the Formula One cars or the rocket.
Especially this week.
If you think about it, everything you bought comes in some kind of package. Doesn't matter whether you're wearing it or whether you're eating it or using it. It's a huge industry. And if you go back just as World War II, the GI Bill, that's what was so wrong. Everybody was going to go to college. Well, we still need plumbers, we need electricians, we need bricklayers, we need all these trades. And the whole system in this country went away from that. So we've had to split our educational group up into two. We now have a future workforce group that's aimed at helping young people with scholarship money, but we bring them to the trade show so that they can see the machinery, so that they can see that there's an industry there that has lots of really good paying jobs in lots of different areas that they don't even know exists. So our future workforce group works on that side. And then we have another group that helps upskill the workers that our members already have. So we try to go at it from two different sides, but visibility is one, just to let them know the jobs are there and that they're good jobs. I think Sar mentioned you make a good living at these jobs. So there's a whole step change now in the trades, and we see students now gravitating back towards that for the first time in many years.
Yeah. Well, I have a 14-year-old son, so I definitely keep, making him like excited about technology. One topic from our side, from Schneider Electric, right? When we transform the automation into software defined and in open standards, we just open a pool of resources that are coming with this IT mindset into the shop floor. Up to today is almost like two separate worlds, and the pool of resources are smaller and smaller. And when you transform that into software defined, now you're attracting people that are coming out of the college knowing how to code, knowing how to use AI, and they get so excited by saying, wow, I can apply everything that I've learned now into the shop floor. It's not anymore this thing that is super closed and I can't learn, right? So that's one point, and I guess Augury has the same challenge as us to transform the shop floor with more technology. And how do you see the convergence there?
Look, we talked, I think we spent 30 minutes talking about the challenges. I actually think there's a huge opportunity as well, right? So new technologies that are becoming available are a solution to a decade-old problem. I have as an example, one of the largest food manufacturers told me that they, in manufacturing operations in North America, they have 6,500 people working. 5,800 of them have been less than 3 years at the company.
Wow.
And the attrition rate, the average tenure is months, not years. So they're just cycling through people and they're not sticking around, right? Now, why is that? First of all, I agree we have a huge marketing problem, right? People view manufacturing work as the 4Ds, if you've heard of that, it's like dirty, dull, dangerous, and dear or difficult. How can you remove those Ds, right? Maybe it doesn't have to be dull anymore. You can remove all the repetition through AI, agentic solutions. Maybe it doesn't have to be dangerous anymore. We can send Spot the robot dog or humanoids in the future to do the dangerous work. So there's a huge opportunity now, but it's not available today. It will take a few years for it to really be there. And at that time, we're going to bleed away all of the knowledge, right? So our opportunity is, how do we digitize the knowledge? You mentioned digital twins as an example. How do we digitize all of the knowledge that kind of this generation has, so we can onboard the next generation when they become available, and they will look very differently, to your point, to your kind of 14-year-old child. They will look very different, right? They would expect a ChatGPT-like solution in their day job, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of where we're going, right? Going from a solution that tells you what you need to do to a natural interface where you can actually learn on the job, and it teaches you how to do the job, or maybe sends the robot to do the job for you where it can.
Yeah. Well, I could go on and on making my own questions, but I want to make sure that you guys can have a chance to ask your questions to the panelists. We have about 7 minutes, I would say, so we can take 2 or 3 questions. Anyone? Don't be shy. No questions?
This one over there.
How much is quality that increase election?
Ooh, I can start. It's not an exact answer to your question, but you hear this a lot. Automation is going to drive electricity demand. AI is for sure driving electricity demand. But there's also sort of a countervailing narrative around AI and digitalization of grid infrastructure is also going to save electrons because you're channeling it in new ways. You're developing technology that's self-healing along the grid. So you're the efficiency promise. And if you've ever had a chance to hear Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, talk, he thinks that over time, the electricity demand from data centers is actually going to be offset by the AI impact on how we operate our grids. Now, it's going to take time. That's not going to happen tomorrow. But you see it already. There's grid technologies that are in place, digital substations, dynamic line rating, self-healing structures on lines that will diagnose where a failure is going to occur and redirect electrons proactively. So you already see it. I mean, I think, to come back to your actual question, I think there's projections that advanced manufacturing is going to drive over the next 10 years electricity demand by something like 15% is the number. But over time, you're going to get efficiency gains almost equal to that because of the use of AI.
Yeah, I can give you a data point, which is a real one from our own factory that Sar mentioned. We reduced 26% the energy consumption in that factory. So I think that's a very important question and a paradigm, because we all talk about the demand side, right, in the industrial side. So we are consuming energy, and then some people trying to bring more energy to the grid. And that's kind of, in the newspaper, is all we talk about, how to put more energy to the grid, and not a lot about how to get efficient in what we do today. And by using modern technology, we can be way more efficient on the manufacturing side and use less energy. That's actually crucial for the next 4 years until we get more energy to the grid. So that can help to offset a bit in the short term as well. I mean, we are not going to see a lot of power coming to the grid next year, right? I have a colleague that is a competitor, but is a colleague anyway, and he said to me in 2022, I had 0 market share. He sells gas turbines because there's only one gas turbine in the market. Now he has a lot of gas turbines. He said the problem is it's coming 2030, 2031. Yeah. Right? So we need to be super efficient in what we consume today, because the amount of energy that's needed to remain competitive it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Any other question? Yep.
You talked about being more inclusive. I shouldn't use that word, but more inclusive, and having female engineers and having people come into manufacturing. How do you make aspirational for them. I think you have to take the leap of faith that they're pretty smart and push down decision making as much as you can, and allow people to kind of noodle a little bit and learn their way. So I recently hired a young lady. She had got 4 years at LSU engineering, 4 years of engineering design work, and then she got an MBA. And so I give her most of my job and let her do my job, and then we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how she learns to, the experience that I've got. So you kind of got Gen Z and a boomer working together. But it's I mean, for me, it's hugely rewarding, and for her, hopefully it gives her an accelerated growth path to take on more and more. And she's director of operations, so she's having to go out to the field, deal with construction, deal with you guys, and so
We're nice people.
It's a focus for us. We actually have a women's leadership network, and some of the robotics teams that we bring to our shows, they're all female. So they're finding the jobs and finding interest in them and finding the technology interesting to them. So it's an area of focus for us.
I'll ask the other question. Sorry. How do you scale that?
It's a journey of 1,000 miles, right? We got to start somewhere, and it's been increasing every year. So every year we see more girls wanting to get involved in the technology and get involved in the programs, and they're attending the schools. So it's something that's ramping up, I would say, quickly. Yeah.
Opinion, as being a woman who's been in this industry for 31 years, it starts in the schools. Like, I'm a unicorn. When I graduated college, there were 2 women in my graduating class from electrical engineering. So, you look to the left, you look to the right, there's no other women. So it starts in the schools, and it starts with things like first Lego Lead, Girls Who Code, organizations like that, and supporting those organizations at a group level. I coached a Sassy Scientist Lego robotics team that won the state championship, all girl team. So that's where it starts, right? And it's making those investments in kids that want to go into these careers.
Hi, I'm so glad we're talking about this conversation. I'm from Girls Who Code directly as well, so very excited to hear about that investment in what our community needs. Very curious as well, I think, for us at Girls Who Code, we're constantly thinking about how do we evolve the types of skills and opportunities our students are seeing in terms of those pathways into early career roles. But that requires a lot of nimbleness and adaptability. How are you seeing the effects of the very rapid changes in AI and other emerging technologies in early career roles? And what do you suggest for young women pursuing the industry to stay nimble in the space as they're learning and adapting going into their first times into careers?
So,
Big question.
yeah, that's a good question. First of all, thank you for all the work you're doing. Back in when software as a service took over, there was a term called consumerization of the enterprise, where in the past it was, I'm going to buy an IBM solution or full suite, and then over time, every role, every department had their own vertical SaaS solution. We're seeing that again, right? So the consumer world is actually moving much faster than enterprise. Is very, very true for industrial, right? So keep up with on the consumer side with ChatGPT and all of those developments. It's a matter of time until we see them actually coming into the industry. So that's number one. Just be very kind of involved in that world, because in 2 years we're going to see it here. I think there's room for the lighthouse factories or other areas where you can actually pool the talent just to see what life in the modern kind of workforce will look like in a few years. Not every factory will be like the lighthouse ones, but there could be a good opportunity for partnering here.
Definitely. Well, unfortunately, we came to the end of our session, but for sure, all of you will be here with us for the next as well, so we can continue the conversation. I just want to put few takeaways for us, right? So the workforce is evolving, super fast. We had great discussion on how to prepare the future. Technology is just being adopted in a way that we have never seen before, and that should not be against people, should empower people to make it better, a better place to work, more productive, just more fun, and ultimately to attract more people to join the factory. And by the way, if you have a daughter, maybe we have an action plan here. Just go to your daughter and tell them how great it is to work with all this technology that you're seeing this week, right? Maybe they will get excited about it. And it's super good to see, here in the panel, a lot of you collaborating and discussing the topic that ultimately will lead us to a great industrial manufacturing space in the U.S. I also welcome you to go to our hub. You will see all the technologies being demonstrated there on the floor. And for sure, we have some nice sessions coming up as well. I welcome you to join the open and software-defined one is my preferred, and it's well connected with this panel that we had today. So thanks a lot for the panelists. Thanks for all of you that came. I think we have lunchtime right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You want to take